What if one of the most powerful nations on Earth tried to bring down a regime without firing a single missile, without sending troops, without declaring war, and still failed? What if oil, sanctions, diplomacy, and pressure were meant to save a nation, but instead pushed it closer to the edge of collapse? Today you are going to see how the confrontation between the United States and Nicolás Maduro became one of the most complex geopolitical standoffs of the 21st century, how Venezuela turned into a battlefield without bombs, and why ordinary people paid the highest price. By the end of this video, you will understand how economic warfare works, why sanctions rarely hit those in power, and how an entire country can be squeezed between two forces, while slowly suffocating. The relationship between the United States and Venezuela was not always hostile. For decades, Venezuela was one of America's most important oil suppliers. Venezuelan crude fueled U.S. industries, cars, and growth. The relationship was transactional, pragmatic, and profitable. Oil flowed north. Dollars flowed south. Politics stayed in the background. That changed when Hugo Chavez came to power and openly challenged U.S. influence in Latin America. He nationalized industries, seized foreign assets, and framed Washington as the enemy of Venezuelan sovereignty. For Chavez, anti-American rhetoric was not just ideology, it was a tool. It unified supporters, justified failures, and redirected anger outward. When Nicolás Maduro inherited power, he also inherited this confrontation, but without Chavez's charisma or legitimacy. And as Venezuela's economy collapsed under corruption, mismanagement, and falling oil production, the United States shifted from criticism to pressure. Sanctions became the weapon of choice. At first, they were targeted. Sanctions against individuals accused of corruption, human rights abuses, and drug trafficking. The message was clear. This was not against the Venezuelan people. It was against the regime. But as the crisis deepened and Maduro consolidated power, sanctions expanded. Financial restrictions tightened, access to international markets disappeared, and eventually, the most devastating move came. Sanctions on Venezuela's oil sector. Oil was not just an export. It was the backbone of the entire economy. It funded food imports, medicine, infrastructure, and the state itself. When oil revenues were cut off, the impact was immediate and brutal. Production collapsed, foreign companies withdrew, dollars vanished. The United States argued that sanctions would force Maduro to negotiate or step down. That pressure would break the regime. But authoritarian systems do not respond to pressure the way democracies do. They adapt. They shift the pain downward. Maduro did not lose power. He tightened control. As sanctions intensified, the government blamed everything on external aggression. Every empty shelf, every blackout, every hospital without supplies was framed as proof of economic warfare by the United States. The narrative was simple and effective. The enemy was not corruption, it was Washington. Meanwhile, ordinary Venezuelans felt the consequences immediately. Inflation turned savings into dust. Salaries became meaningless. Food became scarce. Medicine became a luxury. Millions were pushed into survival mode, where political resistance becomes a secondary concern. The U.S. escalated again. In 2019, after disputed elections, Washington recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as Venezuela's legitimate president. Assets were frozen. Oil revenues were redirected. Diplomatic pressure peaked. For a moment, it looked like Maduro's days were numbered. But power does not live in recognition. It lives in control. Maduro retained loyalty from the military, intelligence services, and armed groups. He opened channels with countries willing to bypass sanctions. Russia, China, Iran, and others filled parts of the vacuum. Oil was sold quietly, at discounts, through shadow networks. Gold was flown out of the country. Cryptocurrency experiments emerged. Sanctions created a black market economy that favored those closest to power. And once again, the people paid the price. Sanctions did not remove Maduro. They reshaped Venezuela into a closed, opaque system where accountability disappeared entirely. International companies left. Independent monitoring vanished. The economy shrank further. But the inner circle survived. Over time, even the United States faced a dilemma. Sanctions hurt the population more visibly than the leadership. Migration surged. Millions fled to neighboring countries, destabilizing the region. Humanitarian organizations warned of catastrophe, and slowly, quietly, Washington began adjusting its approach. Sanctions were eased in specific areas. Negotiations resumed. Oil licenses were reconsidered, not because Maduro changed, but because reality imposed limits. Pressure alone had not delivered results. This is the uncomfortable truth at the center of this conflict. The US versus Maduro was never a clean fight between good and evil. It was a geopolitical struggle where oil, power, and strategy mattered more than moral clarity, and Venezuela became trapped in the middle. Maduro used sanctions to justify repression. The US used sanctions to signal resolve, and neither side fully absorbed the human costs until it was irreversible. Today, Venezuela remains on the brink. Its economy fragile, its institutions hollow, its people exhausted. The confrontation did not end in victory or liberation. It ended in stalemate, a nation frozen between pressure and survival. This story is not just about Venezuela. It is about how modern conflicts are fought without armies, how economic tools can devastate societies, and how leaders who control force can outlast even the most powerful opponents. If you want to understand the hidden mechanics behind global power struggles, oil politics, and why sanctions so often fail to deliver justice, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. More stories like this are coming, and the next one may be closer to home than you think.